For tonight's Hammerhead show, get ready to get mocked. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Hammerhead Show. I'm Jack Hammer of the Santa Rosa Press Democrat, and as always, with me is my partner in crime, Rob Shue. How you doing, Rob?
I'm doing all right, Jack. For those that were on my channel earlier, you know what's going on here with the bandage that's covering up the 6 stitches below. But I figured I would get it out of the way early for any of those watching that know the popular narrative is that Rob might have said some things, done some things to get himself punched in the face in a bar brawl type of scenario. As those that know me might attest, that's not really my cup of tea. I don't get belligerent. I don't drink anymore, and therefore don't lead myself into situations where I tend to get knocked out. No, I had a quick little procedure, got the 6 stitches under there. Later this week, I'll take off the bandage and they'll be visible, and I'll be right as rain by the time we get around to the draft in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, you'll look good. It was funny. I knew that you were going in for the procedure, and I saw the first pic that you sent out to everybody. And I tweeted, I went to tweet it and I pulled it back, but I was going to ask you, when does a new season of Breaking Bad start? All right. Bad jokes.
I love it.
No, I'm just giving it a hard time. I'm glad that everything's going well. I know it's not, what you're dealing with there isn't anything to really joke about. So I'm glad though that you're doing good, and it's going to be fun. This is a different.
The only thing I will say, Jack, is, I'm of the camp that everything deserves to be joked about. I believe that. If you can't laugh at all the tragedy that happens in life, it becomes a pretty miserable existence. So I think it's all fair game in my book. And I see Randon is here in the comments. I'm with him in that the only thing that matters, Jack, is they didn't touch the beard. The beard is intact. The beard is safe.
The beard is safe. The beard is good. And we have a whole bunch of folks already. The comment section's going off pretty good. We have Raphael 5629ers. What's up, Jack, Rob, and everyone? Hey, Raphael, good to have you in. E. Kim joining us tonight. He says, hey, guys, good to see you. And then Swan Song says, the new intro is awesome, Jack. Thank you, Swan. That's actually Jesse put that together for me, Jesse Naylor, who I'll be with tomorrow night. I was telling Rob before we went on, I sent him a couple of clips that I was thinking of. Wasn't even thinking of doing a new intro, and he took it in a completely different direction. And really, I think it's a perfect intro for me, being an older guy who watched everybody. It kind of ties up the new with the old, and I love it. I think that thing's fantastic.
That's the first time for me seeing it. I think it's delightful, dude. That is a great clip, and the way that he stitched them together in the opposite, that's fantastic.
Yeah, you got Joe Montana throwing a touchdown pass to Deebo Samuel, and Trey Airy going deep to Jerry Rice. You can't beat it.
Jerry.
If you've been watching my channel and following my Twitter enough, you know that the guys the 2 wide receivers in that opening, who I feel are the 2 best wide receivers that I've ever seen play for the Fortner. So I'll just leave it at that for tonight. We don't need to go much further into that one because I'll get plenty of folks that are going to be screaming at me. We got Bryant saying the dynamic duo. And this is going to be fun. This is going to be a lot of fun. Tonight, the deal is we're going to go ahead and give you our first run through a 49ers mock draft. The ground rules were pretty simple on this one. I told Rob, let's do a mock draft, but we can't do any trades. It's just we're going to give the 49ers a pick at every spot, 61 through 262, and just give it your best shot. And we'll see how it turns out. And we talked a little bit about it, and the cool thing was we only have one player in common throughout the whole thing. So going to be a lot of good ones here tonight.
Yes, indeed. And Jack, I was tempted. I really wanted to trade. There were a couple of spots where I was like, Jack, I just need to trade out of this spot because the board isn't falling how I want it to. But no, I stayed put. I followed the rules, and we have some good mock drafts to go over here.
Yeah, there would have been plenty of trade ups that I would have done as well. So
Yeah,
let's just jump right into it. Let's go. We're going to start off at pick 61 because we've got to get through there's 9 picks, I think, this year.
that's a lot of
Um,
picks.
yeah, a lot of picks, a lot of guys that are going to be potential, 49ers here in 2022. I'll let you go first. Who do you have at pick 61?
Pick 61, I have the 49ers selecting Nick Cross, the safety out of Maryland. This, to me, my thoughts on the player are as follows here, Jack. I had this as the 5th best safety on my board. The reason that I landed there was because there were some runs that occurred, right? There appeared to be some value at the safety position. Most of the top edges were off of the board. When I looked at the remaining edge players, which felt like a need, they all look like reaches to me. So when I looked at safety, I saw the 5th best safety available to me. Great 40 time. He ran a 4.3 440, a 37-inch vertical, 130-inch broad jump. I mean, good measurables for Nick Cross. The question mark for me in the research that I have is as an average tackler. And the 49ers certainly look for players that are sure tacklers within their defensive backfield, but a good athlete. He's a good hitter. He's young. He's just going to be 21 years old before the season.
Okay, that sounds like a good one. I with edge. So I went with the top edge that was available at the time. This is one of those picks where I was looking and it was kind of a best player available for a position I think that is a need,
Right.
somewhat. And so I went with South Carolina edge rusher Kingsley. I'm going to just blow his name here on the last name, but it's Kingsley Enigbar. I believe that's how it's pronounced.
That could be. I've heard Enigbare, but Enigbar sounds better in some way. So
hey, Enigbare, that actually sounds better. That sounds more San Francisco, right? Enigbare. But yeah, so that's who I went with. He's a guy who, basically he's shown in the SEC that he's been able to be productive in terms of he has at least one pressure in every game over the last 2 seasons. So that's pretty good company right there. He has really long arms, powerful hands. For an edge rusher at 61, obviously there's got to be some downside, and that's a little bit of his frame's a little bit smaller. It's a little bit of an inside or an out. So it's going to be and that would be an interesting selection that I think would be allow them to make some moves, maybe down the road here.
yeah, and I explored that too, Jack. Admittedly, he was still on the board when I made my selection of Nick Cross. Someone asked in the comments about did we use the PFF mock simulator? I believe that was Randon, my co-host there on Between Two Beards. Yes, in fact, that was the simulator that we used, and I did have him available to me as well. In my notes from the research that I have available to me, I'm a little bit lower on him in his inability to make the turns, right? He's much more of a straight line type of a rusher, not very mobile in that regard in the notes that I have there. But I saw this as a prime spot where I would have liked to have traded. This was the one where I said to myself, man, there were a couple of players that fell further than I thought they would have, and Christian Watson and Jalen Petrie, both of which fell in the neighborhood of 50, to where you could get a deal done where the Niners package pick 61 and pick 93 and move up to the 48 to 50 range and get one of those 2 players. I would seriously consider that, but that's tough because now you're giving up 2 potential starters to get 1. That to me was a tough trade, and so I felt safer to just stay put, take the safety, and then address the edge rusher in the next pick, knowing that I was going to have to force that pick a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, no, I get where you go there. And then like Swan Socks, and here's one of the other pieces too. That Enigbare at South Carolina with Javon Kinlaw. They played together there. And the Furners have had some success there. I mean, there's a receiver that we talked about earlier that was from South Carolina. It seems like they've gone that to the well with South Carolina quite a bit since 2011. Chris Culver was from South Carolina as well, cornerback during the Super Bowl team of 2012. So that'll be an interesting one to see if that's where we go. And Andrew says the score after Andrew must have liked my pick better. He says
He
Jack
did.
1, Rob 0.
And Andrew had put Drake Jackson up there in a previous comment. Andrew, if Drake Jackson had been available at my pick, I would have gone edge. If Drake Jackson was there, I would have. But in my PFF simulator, it was like 3 picks before the Niners came up that Drake Jackson went off the board.
Yeah. Yep. So best player available for I think for both of us there to start off with. And let's jump over to the next one. Let's go to 93. I'll let you still go first, though. No, pick 93.
You're a gentleman and a scholar, Jack. I appreciate that. Pick number 93. I have the San Francisco 49ers selecting edge rusher D'Angelo Malone out of Western Kentucky. To me, this was the 11th best edge rusher on my board. There's this top 100 freak athlete list that's out there, and he falls onto that list. He ran a 4.53 40. He was fast in the 3-cone, fast shuttle times as well. He was originally a wide receiver converted to edge, so he's very quick coming off the edge. Apparently bends well, but is low on the power rush. So to me, this was the speed rusher that I was targeting. To me, that's what I want. Opposite of Nick Bosa, I would like the speed rusher. So this filled that slot again pretty conveniently. I knew I would have to reach a little bit and consider an edge in this spot. But some of the other players that were available, I considered Cam Taylor-Britt, the cornerback, as a K1 replacement was there. Myjai Sanders, if that's how you pronounce his first name. But his weight at the combine really was alarming to me. He seemed like the other edge rusher I would consider at that spot at 93. And then Donovan West was there as well, the center out of ASU. But out of that, to me, edge player dominated the need. So was this best player available or need or both? For me, this was a little bit of both, definitely leaning towards filling a need. When I made the decision to go safety in the second round, I knew that I was going to have to go edge with one of the next 2 picks, and it just unfolded that it was this way and felt that I could go this direction because there was a run on interior linemen. Cole Strange was off the board, and Marcus Jones was another one, the nickel corner that I would have targeted had those 2 players been available there at 93, but they weren't. So I went edge, D'Angelo Malone.
There you go. There you go. That's a good one. That's another name that I've heard of a little bit. So he looks pretty good in what I've seen of him, the little bit that I have. So that's a good pick there. Before I get on to mine, I'm just going to bring this one up real quick for your first takes. That's Aaron. Thank you very much for the donation. Appreciate it so much, Aaron. Hello, my Aaron. Niner brethren. Hope you're feeling better, Rob. And keep bringing the filthy jackhammer. Thank you so much. So really appreciate that. And then as far as my pick at 93, I went with best player available / need here. And I went with Luke Fortner, center out of Kentucky.
That's solid.
And what I like about Fortner is he's played in a 49er style system. The offensive coordinator there at Kentucky when he was there is now going to become the offensive coordinator with the Rams. He had been with the Rams prior to going to Kentucky, Liam Cohen. So he has familiarity with what the 49ers can do. He's able to he's very versatile. He's played all 3 positions across the line of scrimmage. I think he has over 600 snaps at both guard spots and center. At least 600 at each of them. So that's pretty good as well. Athletic guy, able to get out and block well in space, does good on the screens and those types of things. So it just really sounds like that would be a strong fit for what Kyle Shanahan likes to do with his offensive linemen and his centers in particular. And from everything I've seen, Fortner's a pretty smart guy who should be able to handle that playbook.
I love that pick, Jack.
There you go. See, there we go. Now we got to wait. Andrew said it's both, so I guess it's 2-1. 2-1. And Swan Song says, don't hate it. So that's good. At least he doesn't hate my pick. Thank you very much, Swan. Appreciate it. And then Victory Street Ministry, I think he's still talking about me, says that was a good pick as well. I don't know. He might have been talking about yours because I did like yours as well. And I like you had mentioned the offensive lineman from Arizona State. They have a couple of them. There was a tackle there as well who kept coming up around like the pick 105, and I kept taking him because the value just was too much to pass up right there.
Right.
Not that it would have been made the most sense, but just because of the value, and we don't know exactly. There was a question earlier that Swan asked, does the McGlinchey news or video change how you're thinking about it? And
right.
I hadn't seen the video when I put this together, but afterwards I'm feeling a lot better about not taking somebody else.
Yeah, the McGlinchey video has me feeling optimistic. I mean, both he and Kinlaw look good running against resistance. I mean, obviously, that's just one of the first steps that each one of them needs to get past. But I found it to be an encouraging video.
Yeah, I did too. I definitely found that, to be encouraging. I know I thought it was funny because you can tell that the McGlinchey pays attention to what's happening on social media, because that's why he put that 310 up there at the end of the video to make sure everybody knows that he's not 255 pounds. He's
Right.
actually 310. So that's good to see. That's good to see where he's going to be by the time the season goes. We still have a long ways to go, man. We're in April, so we have 3.5 months before he would have to strap it up for the first practice of training camp.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot more talking about Debo, a lot more talking about Jimmy G. Oh, when is that just going to get here, Jack? We just need football.
Well, what I found best today, one of the best things, since you brought those up real quick, just getting away from the draft for a second, was the picture from Rita Oak. I thought that was the perfect one today, because it was Jimmy Mercury, as she said, because it was, she drew him up like Freddie Mercury, and all I could think about was, I want to break free, and I tweeted it out, and then I got bombarded with, we just want Jimmy to break free. So
I want to break free. Excellent. Well played. Yes. I don't think she knew how long she was signing up to draw Jimmy G.
she's gonna be drawing Jimmy G for a while.
Yep.
And it's fun.
It's very fun.
They've been giving her some really good ideas too, so it's going to be fun to watch how those come
Brilliant.
together. All right, let's move on. We're still in the third round. We're going to move to pick 105.
Pick 105. I boxed myself into a corner here, but I thought the value was very appropriate in who I got. So I targeted this player when I took my selection at 93, and I counted on the fact that he would be here at 105. Thankfully, I was right. So at 105, I'm taking interior offensive lineman, future center, Cam Jurgens. I have him as the seventh best interior O lineman on my board, right behind Cole Strange, which is who I would be targeting first and foremost there. But I was hoping to get Cole Strange at 93. That wasn't happening in this simulation, and so that changed my strategy. When I look at Cam Jurgens, again, I'll go back to that athletic freak ranking that is out there. He's listed as 14th on the top 100 as far as athletic freaks when it comes, because he's a big man, and that 40 time has him climbing these draft boards. He may not actually be available at 105, but he had some great times. A 4.91 40 has earned himself the nickname, not Beef Jerky, but Beef Jergy, and he moves very well for a guy of his size. So other things that other players that were available that I considered, I was looking, and I really wanted Jaylani Woods in this draft. I really wanted that second tight end. My hope was he would fall to the fourth round, so I didn't feel comfortable taking him here at 105, but he was available. This, to me, was much more of a need because I had pushed off interior O-line through the first two picks. It became a must that it was either Cam Jurgens or some other players that I would have been forced into. But those previous runs at interior offensive line really left me feeling like I had boxed myself into a corner if I'm the 49ers in needing to select a player. I was just grateful it was Cam Jurgens, because that's someone who I would have targeted anyway.
Yeah, no, that's a really good one. I've seen a lot of Cam Jurgens. If that's the direction they go at that spot right there, or period, if they decide that's the guy they want to be the center of the future, I wouldn't have an argument against that at all. For myself, I went in a different direction here. I went with at pick 105, the San Francisco 49ers select Jerome Ford, running back, Cincinnati.
Ooh.
That's who I went with. The 49ers have been bringing in running backs. So they've brought in James Cook, who was also available at this spot as when I went through once. The other times he was not there, so I stuck with Jerome Ford. Brian Robinson's another one, but when I looked at all three of them, I went this direction because this is a guy who, he played at Cincinnati, but he actually started off at Bama.
Mm.
So he was an Alabama recruit, transferred to Cincinnati, 5'11", 220, fast, big, strong guy. Really in a lot of ways projects as to be kind of more maybe a short yardage back early on, with some of the things that he does because of his strength that he runs with. And with where the 49ers are right now, and also on top of that, I should have mentioned, pretty good receiver too. So last year he had 1,300 rushing, 220 yards receiving on 21 receptions. Uh, all told, he had 20 touchdowns last year for the Bearcats.
I love the idea of a back with good hands, because I see this as a potential to push JaMycal Hasty out of the backfield roster, and to me that is the if I'm being honest, that's its weakest link I see in the room. I would rather have the complementary skill sets of Jeff Wilson Jr., Trey Sermon, Elijah Mitchell, and then another third down back to displace JaMycal Hasty. Nothing against JaMycal Hasty. He's not a poor player, but I felt that was the best area to upgrade. So I was curious if that gentleman had good hands, but you indicated as much, good sir.
Yeah, he's done pretty good in the receiving department. I know, taking a running back at the at that spot, some folks feel like it's a little bit early, but with where the 49ers are, I think they need to really kind of have another lockdown that they can put in there that has the ability to take it down the field and also pick up those short yardage position, short yardage situations that they need, so that they can. They're going to give Deebo Samuel a pretty big chunk of change here pretty soon, and they're going to not want to have him playing running back too much.
I've got some bad news for Victory Street Ministry, who says Hammer's draft just got tossed in my book. Never draft a running back in the first 4 rounds. Spoiler alert. I'm about to do the same. So you're going to have to toss both of the drafts, because we've got the 4th round pick coming up, and I went best player available, and that player happened to be a running back. So we're going to have to toss them both, apparently, Jack.
Yeah, real quick before we get there, the other guys I had there at pick 105 was the tackle we talked about from Arizona State, Kellen Diesch. I would have taken him there, or the other one was Brian Cook, the safety out of Cincy. But just looking at the running backs, and the 49ers have been bringing in these running backs, I feel like they're going to go with a running back probably in one of those first 3 picks.
Yeah. Does that give you any pause as to their thoughts around Trey Sermon? Or do you think it just is the 49ers are a run first team, and therefore they are focused on, creating the highest level of competition they can within the running back room?
I think they need to find somebody that can pick up those short yardage. They don't. The problem with Trey Sermon, there's a couple of things, is that he doesn't really he doesn't really pound his way into the hole. He's kind of a little bit of a dancer, not a dancer, but he kind of slides. He's just not, he just doesn't attack it quite maybe the way that you'd want in a short yardage back. The other thing with Trey Sermon that's tough is he's a volume back. So when you watch him in college, his best games are when he's getting a lot of carries. So he's getting the ball quite a bit to where he gets into a rhythm. And once he gets into that rhythm, then he's almost unstoppable. So I think that's a little bit of the reason why there. And I see Victory Street Ministry saying Jeff Wilson, but Jeff Wilson's he's not the guy anymore.
Yeah, I hope he bounces back a bit this year, and that it was just, the lingering knee health that had him looking a little bit less like himself. But I would have said 2 years ago that Jeff Wilson Jr. could pick up those short yards in tough situations, but that's not what I saw from him last season.
Yeah, I agree with you. I didn't see that last year either. I think they needed to make a change there, and that's why I went this direction. So, who do you have at 134? We're now getting into the 4th round here.
I threw out that spoiler alert that at 134, my best player available was a running back, but I do think it addresses a minor need. As I was saying, to me, if you're able to bump JaMycal Hasty out of the running back room, to me, that is a successful. I got to stop saying to me, Jack. I can hear myself say it, but I can't stop. That is a successful pick if you're able to improve that running back room by getting JaMycal Hasty, back out onto that practice squad flex type of a position.
Uh-huh.
I took Pierre Strong. The San Francisco 49ers selected at pick 134. Pierre Strong Jr., the running back out of South Dakota State. We're talking 4.37 40 time here, Jack. He is fast with a game that translates to the NFL level. He fits the 49ers in that he's more of a running back by committee type of a back. He's not a Trey Sermon where you want him to get considerable volume, and he does have surprising hands coming out of the backfield. So this is my selection. I'm taking Pierre Strong Jr., and that is going to push JaMycal Hasty out of that room. No offense to JaMycal Hasty, but we are stepping it up. And when I was looking at it, honestly, when I looked at other players available here, it was not much for me. Admittedly, this is about where my comfort level ends with the vast majority of the names available, right? Like you look at all the names that you see when you get past 120, 130 in the draft. I have targets after that point, but to me, this was something that jumped off the page as far as value.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a name. And Pierre Strong, that's a name that I've seen quite a bit of, and I know that he's a heck of a back. So again, that's another one where if they were to go a different direction and they're sitting there at that spot and they're able to bring him in, I would be happy with that pick. I would definitely would give them praise for that selection if that's the direction they go.
Yeah, I had a couple of fast wide receivers on the board that I was thinking about, but I thought, you know what? I'll wait on that. I'll wait on the need for speed.
There you go. The need for speed. I like it. Real quick before I give mine, Brian from he says, "What's up, Jack Hammer? Hey, we're doing our mock draft here, and so far, unfortunately, Andrew fallen off the wagon here. He's not. He hasn't graded our last couple. Maybe he got so mad at me. Maybe after my Jerome Ford one, maybe he decided to log off because
that was it. That's all he could take.
That was the backbreaker." For me at 134, this guy showed up every time that I did it, and there was a bunch of these guys that were kind of pretty solid for me. There was a few of them that kind of moved around, and this was not one of them. I went at 134, the Fortner select cornerback Cordell Flott from Louisiana State University. The reason for this pick was, the Fortners need to find somebody that can play in the slot. This is a guy who can play both inside and outside, so he's got that versatility. Trust his eyes. He's good on in and out of his breaks. Struggles a little bit in man coverage. He's a little bit more of a zone player, but I think that would be a good developmental pick right there if they don't make any other moves. So go cornerback there for the 49ers.
I like that pick. I think the 49ers do need cornerback depth, and I have them sneaking one in later in the draft, admittedly sort of filling that depth there. But to me, again, this is a need. This addresses both best player available and depth that is needed.
Yeah, it's definitely needed there. They don't have a whole lot there right now, unless you feel that Diamado Lenore can step in. I think the 49ers, they have some solid depth guys that can kind of play that spot, but I don't know if they have anybody that they can plan on being there past this year, unless Lenore steps up and is really that guy.
Right. Unless he grows into that role considerably.
Correct. So that was our pick there at 134. You went with Strong, and I went with Flott. So we did a running back and a corner. Let's jump on to 172. So kind of a little bit of a gap here before the next pick. At 172, which direction did you go?
Yeah, at this point, Jack, I was very pleased with myself. I had checked a lot of boxes. I had gotten a couple of the names that I was targeting. And so I thought to myself, what better course of action than to reach a little bit for that speedy wide receiver? And it looks like Andrew is back in keeping score. So that's thrilling. We'll get to that in a moment. 172, I have the San Francisco 49ers selecting Vellus Jones Jr., the speedy wide receiver out of Tennessee. This is purely for speed. I got the need for speed, Jack. 4.31 40 time. And this one comes down to supply and demand. This is a dude with average hands, and so there's concern around selecting him here at pick 172. but the supply of 4-3 wide receivers, even in this class, is limited, and therefore the demand pumps them up the chart. So a lot of mock drafts have Vellus Jones Jr. being in that 6th round range. I think if you want to ensure yourself of getting that elite 4-3 speed, he may be off the board sooner than that, even with average hands. You want that speed, you got to pay for it. I saw some of the other speed guys still out there. Bo Melton was still available. Probably could have targeted him in the 6th round if I had waited, but I went with needing to get the speed. I had seen Danny Gray coming off the board prior to this pick, so I jumped.
Okay. I went here at 172. This is where I got the safety that I was looking for. Leon O'Neal from Texas A&M.
Oh, that's a steal, Jack. That's a steal.
Got him at 172. He was still sitting there, and I said, there's my guy. I looked out on mine, and I feel that's a really good spot for him.
Huge value.
Yeah, he seems, everything that I've seen on him, it sure sounds like a guy who can play with a lot of the versatility of a Jaquoski Tart, that ability to play up tight and man coverage as well as play deep. He can play in the box and deep both. So when he was still sitting there on the board at that spot, you had to jump on it.
And he brings an attitude, Jack. To see him in person at the Combine when he was answering questions, specifically the interaction that he had with Jordan Elliott there, was remarkable. I mean, just a locker room guy, a confident guy, the type of attitude I want from a safety, right? When I think safety, Jack, I'm old school. When I think safety, I think Ronnie Lott. So I think a certain type of attitude. And Leon brought that type of attitude to the interview. It was hard for me in the drills because he was right next to Jalen Petrie. So Jalen Petrie would run the drill first, and then Leon O'Neal would run the drill immediately following him. And Petrie was just so silky smooth in his movements that it made Leon look very tight, very stiff. And I don't honestly know that I'm separating out enough of one being just really silky and the other being a bit stiff, or whether, it was the juxtaposition that really created that gap for me. And that if I had seen Leon O'Neal next to anyone else, it wouldn't have been as jarring of a comparison. So I don't know whether the reflection was how infatuated I am with Jalen Petrie or how tight Leon O'Neal was in that, to illustrate what I think he probably does best, which is thumping, playing it down in the box. And so to see that attitude jump off of the screen was something that excited me about the player. I think it's a great value here, selecting him at 172.
Yeah, I got lucky there. So definitely a lucky pick for myself. Are you still there?
I am, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry, I lost this as far as the visual, but perfect. There we go. So you got a good wide receiver there at 172. I'm going to have my receiver is going to be coming up a little bit later, but we're going to move on to pick number 187. Where we are. Hold on one second. Let me get there. Oh, I am. Sorry about that. Here we go.
Quite all right.
There we go. Pick 187. We are back in the game. I'm sorry about my technical difficulties on my end.
That's okay. The 187, the homicide pick for the 49ers. This one comes into me, admittedly. Again, I tried to balance out positional needs and tiered players. Because I know less names, the further we get into the draft, it becomes more about positional needs for me, or at least strategizing around the position that I took. So I view the 49ers wanting to have a second tight end to complement George Kittle. I really wanted that to be Jaylani Woods. I really want that to be Jaylani Woods in the 4th round. And in any mock that he falls to the 4th round, you can rest assured that unless Marcus Jones is available, my pick is Jaylani Woods. If it's Marcus Jones or Jaylani Woods, that's a tough one, but I'd probably have already taken Marcus Jones at 105. So Jaylani Woods is my target, but he's off the board, man. In this mock that I'm doing for this show, he's off the board before the 4th round, which is crazy, but I get it. He's a riser. James Mitchell, the tight end out of Virginia Tech, was the runner-up in my book. It's the wrong Virginia school. It's the wrong Virginia tight end, but it is still a Virginia tight end nevertheless. He's the 7th best tight end on my board, coming off of a knee injury, but I have him listed as a phenomenal blocker, great speed, good hands, can make the contested catch, and that on almost a third of his targets, they went for 15 plus. So to me, this was just filling a need. I wanted a second tight end. James Mitchell was the best available at that point. So a bit of a combination of best player available and filling a need for the Niners.
Okay. Yeah, I went a completely different direction here at 187. I see the hole left by DJ Jones leaving in for agency to go out to Denver. 49ers have some guys there that are okay, but they're not necessarily the run stuffing defensive tackles. I think they're going to probably be a little bit better, against the pass inside. So I took a little bit of a flyer here. I went with from the University of Idaho, defensive interior player Noah Ellis. He's a big guy, 6'4", about 355, 360 pounds. So he's a big guy. He was actually originally a Mississippi State recruit. He ended up at Idaho because of issues with academics, so that's why he ended up there with the Vandals. His dad, Luther Ellis, was actually a Pro Bowl defensive lineman with the Detroit Lions back in the day. So the bloodlines are there. We talk about that a lot when we discuss the 49ers. And they're, especially with Nick Bosa and so on. So
right.
Another guy with some bloodlines along the defensive line, big 6'4", 300 and something pound. And, this one's maybe a little bit of an interesting pick, but I think that's a need that could be filled for the 49ers.
The Niners are not shy about adding depth to their defensive line, seemingly endlessly, right? As soon as we say to ourselves, no, they have enough starters along that defensive line. They've hit that, they're going to keep 10 on the 53. They got 10 viable starters there, and then they go and pick another defensive lineman. So it's playing into your strengths. The 49ers have invested heavily into that defensive line. I believe they will continue to invest heavily in that defensive line. I wouldn't predict that they go interior D lineman, but I will not be shocked if they do.
Yeah, as you said, they have 10 right now, and I just picked 2 more. I had the first guy off the board for me was an edge, now an interior guy. So maybe I've fallen under the spell of John Lynch.
Hey, the rich get richer sometimes, and at the defensive line, the 49ers are wealthy.
Exactly. And then Jay, I see your super chat, and we're going to get there in a minute because I don't want to give anything away, but we're going to get to that in a few minutes. We'll be answering that with some of our picks here. So let's move along. We're now into the back end. I think this is the back end of I think it's going to be round 7 or beginning end of 6, maybe.
Yeah, this is end of the 6th. These are those 6th round compensatory picks that were predicted to be 7th rounders, but then ended up being 6.
Yeah, so let's jump on pick 220. Who have you got?
Pick 220, the San Francisco 49ers select Chris Steele, cornerback out of USC. Admittedly, this is a player I don't have a whole lot of information on, but to me, when you're at this point in the draft, you're looking at, making the roster. Where do you need depth? Playing on special teams. So all of those things factored in for me. He has reasonable size, 6 foot, 187 pounds. I had this as just best player available and corner depth for the 49ers. It felt like appropriate value according to my own personal big board. He was planned to be picked just a few before that. So it was appropriate value. It wasn't a huge value pick to where he was clearly best player available, but this felt like a safe pick to me to add to that cornerback depth.
Yeah, no, that's definitely, they need to get a cornerback at some point in this draft. So that's a good one there. For me at 220, I think you went tight end just at pick 187.
I did.
This is my turn to go tight end. I went tight end at pick 220. I went with Cole Turner, tight end out of Nevada, 6'6", 246, big guy. Plays a little bit more out of the kind of out of the slot than in line. And so I think that's kind of the versatility that the 49ers want out of their second tight end, especially with George Kittle primarily being their inline blocker.
That's closer to what I'm looking for in targeting Jaylani Woods, that size. So I like that pick, Jack.
Yeah, and so I don't know a whole lot about Cole Turner, just a little bit of studying up on him today, but it sounds like with his size and his ability to get open down the field, he had some decent numbers there at Nevada last year. So um, we'll see how he works out with the 49ers in 2020 too.
Yes. Love it.
Because we know that every pick we're making right now, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan are sitting in front of their computers in Santa Clara. They just had their pro day today with the local players, and they're saying we need to get some help here because we're lost otherwise.
Yeah, they're taking notes. I mean, they're asking themselves right now, did Rob have nose surgery or did he get punched in the face? And why didn't we think of selecting James Mitchell at tight end at 187 or Turner at 220? They're taking notes, Jack, as they should.
Absolutely. They're right on board with us. Here we go. That's and the nice part about these two picks is they have two back to back. So if you
Yes.
had a guy that you liked and you weren't sure about getting him at 220, you didn't have to worry about it because he's going to be there right in the next pick at 221.
And I took that into account when I made my selection at 221 because I didn't want to say that I had used our earlier sixth rounder on a punter, even if it is the punt god, Jack. My pick for the San Francisco 49ers at 221, they select Matt Araiza, the punter out of San Diego State. I mean, come on, the punt god. It's not a need for the 49ers at all. But this was a way, Jack, for me to skate around the no trade clause that you had put into this potential mock draft and get a trade in there. Because as soon as this selection occurs, well, I'm sorry, Mitch Wishnowsky, but you are now going to be traded for a future sixth or a future seventh rounder in next year's draft. I feel badly doing it. I'm a big fan of Wishnowsky, especially his tackling ability. But let's be honest, we need touchbacks, Jack. And that's what this gets us. If we are going to invest as much as we did into special teams throughout this offseason to date, how about we get to the point where we can kick the ball into the end zone on kickoffs? So to me, this feels a very clear need.
Yeah, no, but that's a really nice pick. And then Jay Aguao 56, thank you for the donation. He says, Jack and Rob, good to see the Avengers of Niner pods together. So we're the Avengers. There you go. I like it. Big fan
Yes.
of Marvel over here, at least myself.
I'll be Spider-Man. That was my hero growing up. I was always a Spider-Man fan.
There you go. Well, you can be Spider-Man, and I guess that makes me Thor because he carries the hammer, right?
He does. That's a good pull, Jack. Good pull.
What are your thoughts on, is it Ojabo? Ohabo? I'm not sure how you say his name on that one. And the punter out of San Diego State, Araiza, does field goals also. That's why I waited to bring this up because I knew that Rob was coming up with Araiza. And I have Araiza on my board too, but not at pick 221. So I just kind of gave mine away.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, no, I think the pick of Araiza is a really good one. That's the 49ers have been building their special teams throughout this offseason. If they can get a kicker like Araiza, who had, I think it was 63 touchbacks on 72 kickoffs, that'd be huge for the 49ers coverage units.
Yeah, I don't have many notes on Ojabo just off the top of my head, but totally agree that. I mean, I go back and forth. I saw in the comments, I believe it was Bryant Culp coming in talking about Mitch Wishnowsky, and I do fall on the fence of believing that Mitch is a quality punter. It really was getting to this point, seeing the name out there, believing it is best player available at this point in the sixth round. I mean, heck, we took Mitch Wishnowsky in the freaking fourth round. So if you're getting the punt god in the sixth, that to me is now going to be your solution at punter, and you've just got to find a new home for Mitch. Admittedly, this one didn't feel right making it. I don't predict that the 49ers are looking to move off of Mitch Wishnowsky. I mean, he's in the fourth year of that rookie deal. So to me, this is just sort of a best player available again.
Well, Bryant, he says, we already have a great punter, so we don't need to worry about it. He's a big
Locked
fan
it
of.
down.
Yeah, I think he goes to the 49er games with a Mitch Wishnowsky gamer, if I on his as far as his jersey. So, kidding, Bryant, kidding. No, but that's thank you again, Jay, for the donation and the super chat. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in. And then last but not least, well, excuse me, I'm still at 221. I haven't even given my pick yet. We got so excited talking about the
Yeah,
the
you
punter
just
for the
wanted to say
49ers.
punt god yourself. So
I
what's this
did.
221?
I did. I'm still at 221. At 221 for myself, I went with a guard out of Mercer, Jason Poe, 6'2", 295. Just kind of fills out another body in there that maybe a draft and develop type of player. Uh, we know that the 49ers, with the way that their roster is already set up, some of these names aren't going to make it. I don't think you're going to see all 9 guys make it. So I think Poe is a guy who you draft and you try to develop him for down the road.
You can't have too much depth along the trenches, and the Niners do like to take some flyers on projects that can develop as offensive linemen, as depth pieces that then have the potential to become starting pieces, as we see with potentially right guard or right tackle if Mike McGlinchey isn't ready for the start of the season. They have taken advantage of drafting some of these projects in previous drafts, and that's paid dividends for them. I would not be surprised at all to see them add bodies to the big men in both your D-line pick and the O-line pick. They seem like picks that are unneeded, that are luxury picks, but the reality is they're core to your future success. They may not pay dividends right away. These are players that are going to need to develop on the team. That's why they're going in the 6th round, but it could lead to future success for the 49ers.
Yeah. Yeah. And then really quick before we move on to pick 262, I'm sorry, Bryant. He says that goodbye, Mitch. Sad to see you go. I just bought your jersey. See, that's one of the hard parts about buying these jerseys for these guys. You know, you buy them and then they leave. And now you have a jersey and you're going to have to change the name on it somehow.
Yeah, you got to do what those Browns fans do in taping some other name across the back.
there you go. Exactly.
It's hard to cover up Wishnowski. That's a long one, right? You want one of those shorter names to cover it up with something else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know what you'd put back there. I don't know. That's a tough one. Wishbone. Maybe you're a big fan of
bring back the wishbone offense.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. I'm not sure. and then we get this 262, and this is going to be fun because this year, if the 49ers hold on to this pick, they will have Mr. Irrelevant on their team because this is the final pick in the draft this year. Rob, who do you have at pick 262?
I got pretty excited about this one as far as best player available and the value I was getting here in shoring up the safety pick that I started off with. So I have now bookended my draft in safeties, Jack. I start out with a safety, I end with a safety. So pick 262, Mr. Irrelevant, the San Francisco 49ers select Dane Belton, the safety from Iowa. I have Dane as the 10th best safety on my board. To me, this was phenomenal value as I have Dane ranked against other safeties available. 5 picks in 13 games, smart, opportunistic ball hawk type of a safety, but lacks a little bit of the physicality, hence why he may still be available at this point. Again, to me, this was a very clear best player available when I noticed that he was still there. It fit, and I'm looking at end of the draft. You've got to be able to make the team, right? For the 49ers, these last 3 or 4 picks are guys that you need to make the roster, and you look at someone like a Dane Belton coming in, potentially being able to contribute on special teams. Certainly safety, linebacker, those are the types of positions that are a best fit for contributing on special teams on the outside right away on those coverage units.
There you go. That's a good one. And it's really good reasoning behind it. And then for me, I mentioned it earlier at 262. That's where I got the punter, and that's where I got Matt Araiza. He was still on the board there at 262.
That's a score.
So I got the punt god at the end of the draft. So he's not Mr. Irrelevant at all. They might call him that, but he is actually the punt god.
The punt god.
And he's going to be the touchback god when he starts kicking in Levi Stadium and Las Vegas and Denver and Mexico City, where the 49ers are probably going to end up playing against the Arizona Cardinals this year. His kickoffs will fly a little bit further for him.
So, someone like a Jason Aponte would have fun with the irrelevant punt god or something like that. As someone who's not a fan of kickers, Jason Aponte would not be on board, but he would like the fact that we didn't take him at 221, that we saved ourselves that pick and waited till the end, the very last pick of the draft before investing in that kicker.
I hear you. I had some folks telling me earlier in the week that they were ready to take a punter at like 134. So the fact that I got him
Whoa.
at 262, I feel pretty good about myself right now.
As you should, sir. As you should.
Well, what was your overall grade that PFF gave you for your draft, Rob?
Oh, it was atrocious. They did not like me at all. I mean, they had me. Hold on, let me pull it up right here. I started out weak, right? As soon as I looked at the D- for Nick Cross, I was like, oh, Jack, this is going to hurt. This is going to sting. They didn't like my Vellus Jones pick either in the 5th. They gave me a D- on that one as well. So those Ds are dragging my average down just like they did in high school, Jack. We're looking at a C- overall grade from PFF.
Okay. Well, I like the Chris. I like the. See, I almost said it there. I like the Nick Cross. His brother Chris was a heck of a jumper back in the day. So we'll see how that turns out for the 49ers.
I like that one too. D- Pshaw. Get out of here, PFF.
Yeah, they gave me a D- for my my Jerome Ford pick at 105. He's probably because of where they have him ranked. They have him at 124 on their board. So I overdrafted him. But the 49ers didn't have another pick at 134, and he wasn't going to last that far. So I had to pull up a little early on that one. But
yeah, right.
The overall grade for me was a B plus. So I was pretty happy with myself. That was not too bad for the first time through. It was the Ford and the Cole Turner picks were the ones that brought me down.
And your Ariza pick was even better than mine. Had I waited one more round, maybe I could have gotten past that C-. Maybe I would have gotten a C or a C+ if I had had the patience that you did in holding off on the punt god for one more round.
Well, see, and that's the thing is patience is something that us 49er, the 49er fans are in short supply of.
Yep.
For the second offseason in a row, we're seeing it play out pretty much on a daily basis right now. It's all around what we're seeing with Deebo Samuel and everything that's going on over there. So a little bit of patience can go a long way, though.
Yes, it can. A long, long way.
Real quick, I know we were doing the draft, but I want to ask you your opinion really quick.
Yeah.
What is Deebo Samuel going to be a 49er in 2022?
Is Deebo Samuel going to be a 49er in 2022? Yes, 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 he is. He will get something that allows him to save face, but not enough to where the 49ers feel that it's a bad contract. I see it as, I know I had been on the show with Grant and he had presented the idea of front loading the contract a little bit. That seems so contrary to what the 49ers do that I just don't see that as necessarily the path that they take. It seems like a good idea. It seems like a possibility, but I see it more the 49ers targeting a higher annual average per year to much like with the Trent Williams deal, to give bragging rights to the player, to be able to go out, stroke the ego by saying, here's my annual average per year, and it's phenomenal, but keeping the guaranteed money a little more reasonable. So yes, I believe they get a deal done. I think they go north of 25 million for the average per year, but they try to keep that guaranteed money somewhere around 50 million or south of that.
Okay. I know you're saying, so you're saying the guaranteed at signing would be below 50?
Right.
Is that what you're thinking?
That
Yeah, because
is
that's
what
one
I'm
of
thinking.
it's interesting when you have this discussion because they're just so the information that's out there when it comes to these guarantees is all over the board.
It's wild.
It's kind of crazy. I do believe that he's going to be there. I understand where Grant's going there. I actually mentioned that in over the weekend on Friday after our show last Friday together. I did a quick thing on Deebo Samuel and why I felt like what I felt the 49ers should do there. And I had mentioned that because what you're going to be doing is if you move on from Jimmy Garoppolo, you have about $27 million of salary cap, $25.5 million of salary cap space
Right.
that you're going to be able to utilize. You can either roll that over or what you do is you give Deebo Samuel maybe a little bit more of a cap hit in year one. And then you drop that off in year two, and then it kind of picks back up in 3 and 4. The thought process there, the 49ers did the same thing when they did the Jimmy Garoppolo deal. they had the cap space, so they threw to Jimmy Garoppolo in his contract, his first year in 2018, he took up $37 million of a cap hit.
That's
Uh,
right.
and then they drew him in the back, and then in 2019 they backed it down to about 17 million. So, I look at Deebo Samuel, and if the 49ers feel like they want to give him $50 million or $52 million guaranteed, I would not blink an eye on that. I think the guy is that important to what they can do. The highest that they've given a guarantee at signing, I think, is 48, a little over 48. It was the one to Jimmy Garoppolo. Um, but the big, and they gave Garoppolo had $74 million total guaranteed in his deal. After that total,
Right.
Trent Williams has 55 million guaranteed in his current deal. It was 40 and a half at signing, but it's actually 55 million total. So I think that's what you're going to see. I think, you saw the numbers come out for, I think what happened here is the numbers for Stephon Diggs, I think, threw people kind of into a little bit of a loop because it was 4 years, $70 million guaranteed. But you got to look at that. And you got to realize that's only $47 million at signing.
Right. Fully
so
guaranteed to where the
Yeah.
team can't get out of that guarantee at some point.
Right. And so I think, if the 49ers go in that direction, they go 48 million guaranteed, fully guaranteed. And that's the good part is if you do the fully guaranteed and it's mostly your signing bonus and first year salary kind of thing, then in year 2 or 3, you're able to start to renegotiate that base or however you have it set up.
Right.
So
gives you flexibility. It does.
Yeah. That's why I like the way that I like the deal that the Dolphins did with
Tyreek
Hill. Yeah. Maybe just take a little bit off of that for Deebo Samuel, a little bit on the guarantee up front, as far as, instead of 52 and a half, you give him 50, 48, somewhere in that ballpark, kind of pack it into the first 2 years. And then in year 3, you're able to be free of that and then start to maybe move his numbers around depending on how well he's performing and your cap needs.
Yeah, honestly, that would make a lot of sense to me, right? I had shied away from it because historically the 49ers had not pursued that. But you bring up a great point in pointing out Jimmy Garoppolo's contract and the way in which that was structured to take advantage of significant cap space that the 49ers had available to them at that time that they could have rolled over into the years after, as they had done in years prior. So they'll have that option again. And potentially, as you suggest, they will take that option of, instead of rolling that forward, instead of backloading a contract for Deebo, putting a little bit of that up front and getting it out of the way, giving themselves a little more flexibility beyond that.
Yeah. We'll leave our Deebo Samuel discussion at that for tonight, because we're going to be back together again on Friday. So I think we're going to probably want to talk a little bit more about Deebo again. And I think our drafts were pretty solid. I think we hit on some strong needs. Just kind of getting back to the bulk of our show, I think we hit on some needs for the team and really helped with, you're welcome, Kyle. You're welcome, John. Please make sure you file this under must read again so that you can get it right this time.
That's right. We need all correct picks this year, gentlemen.
Yes, all nine of them have to be spot on. And Andrew fell off the wagon over here. He stopped grading.
Yeah, no final score. It's unbelievable. Come on, Andrew.
No, I think he's gonna give. I'm gonna say you won 5-4. I don't know.
That's very generous of you, Jack. I thought both were phenomenal drafts, and I'll accept the victory. I will accept.
There you go. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Really quick, Rob, what have you got coming up this week, the rest of the next 2 days?
Yes, I am obviously just coming off of injured reserve with the surgery and the bandage. The bandage will be coming off at some point this week. You'll be subjected to the 6 stitches that are in there underneath said bandage, but I will be live. So tomorrow I have the the call-in show on my channel for Sneakerhead. So if you are a member of the channel, you can call in on the video call-in show. But if you're not, you can always be there in the chat as well. And then Fridays, I have this phenomenal gentleman on from the Santa Rosa Press Democrat. And so that is a must-see show when Jack Hammer is on the channel. That one usually hits at about 4 p.m. on Fridays.
Perfect. I'm looking forward to that one. And your show tomorrow with your call-in show will be fantastic. So get over to Rob's channel if you're here and you're not already subscribed to Rob. Make sure you get yourself over there. While you're here, real quick, Rob, thanks for coming on. I always appreciate you and like talking with you. It's always fun to talk 49ers with you. Before you guys leave, though, get over there. Oh, other way. I don't know which way I have to go. Like and subscribe, like it says at the top. Okay, there we go. Please like and subscribe, and then hit that little bell notification so you know when we go live. Get yourself over to 49ers.pressdemocrat.com. Check out the writings over there. Other than that, I will be back tomorrow night with the Hammer and Nail show at 5:30 with Jesse Naylor.
That's a good one.
It should be fun. It should be fun. Have a great night, everybody, and take care. Talk to you soon.